What is shaken, Internet? This is Salt's bringing you the How to Tank for Dummies Shadowmoon Burial Grounds guide. This guide will cover the Shadowmoon Burial Grounds in Warlords of Draenor, focusing on tank mechanics but covering other aspects as well, including the normal and heroic versions, trash, and bosses, as well as covering the various achievements. It'll be broken up by bosses. Click on any of the annotations on the screen now to jump directly to any boss. For those of you already in the dungeon and needing a quick synopsis, kill adds on the first boss and step on runes when an eclipse happens. Kill your ad quickly and click on them to return to normal on the second boss. Stand in bad stuff when the third boss inhales while avoiding the body slam. And focus down a single skeleton while avoiding the giant cone attack and bad zones on the last boss. The Shadowmoon Burial Grounds are the last bastion for Ner'zhul, the artist futurely known as the Lich King. He's trying to summon some bad powers for the Iron Horde, and you brave heroes should go and punch him in the face. The first area is relatively simple. The Voidwalkers floating around should be continuously interrupted, as their Void Blast does a lot of damage to the entire group. The Ritualists should be focused, and their mending should be interrupted, as they will heal the other adds in the fight. And the Spiders do pretty much no damage. Now, I like to use the hole to skip a few trash packs here, but pets are dumb and will still pull stuff if their owners aren't smart enough to dismiss them before they drop, so be careful. Also, there are a few places with rings of purple runes. Don't step on these runes as they do lots of damage, and stepping on 2 of them will probably kill any DPS. The first boss, Sedana Bloodfury, is in the center of the room. She has a few interesting moves. The first is Dark Communion, which will spawn a separate ad near the edge of the platform. It'll slowly move towards Sedana, and if it reaches her, it will heal her and give her a damage buff. Don't let that happen. Use stuns and snares if necessary. Daggerfall is a problematic move that will drop a bad void zone that seems to stay pretty much throughout the entire fight, it seems. It lands on a random party member and does lots of damage, so make sure not to stand in or near it just in case. Whispers of the Dark Star is a channeled move that does damage to the entire party in bursts. It cannot be stopped or dealt with, so just tank through it. Dark Eclipse is her last move. That will cause a big party-wide raid damage nuke after a few seconds. This is really easy to counter though, as when the shadow comes over the platform, a ring of white runes will appear on the ground. Touching any of the runes in this ring, and you will get a major damage reduction buff for a few seconds, making the move pretty much trivial. On Heroic, the fight is basically the same, but you will have to deal with more dagger falls because she summons twice as many as on normal, which can really become a problem with space on the platform. Additionally, the spirit ad you need to kill has a lot more health, so slows and stuns are really nice to have here. The achievement What's Your Sign takes place during the fight. You'll notice a ring of purple runes around the edge of the platform when fighting the boss. This is similar to the trash runes I was talking about, where touching one hurts you a lot. For this achievement, you have to step on all the purple runes to deactivate them. You'll basically want to wait for the Dark Eclipse because this will mark some of the runes as white. Don't step on these as you don't need to, because you want to keep them active. Basically, you grab that damage reduction buff and then hit all the purple runes that don't turn white, and there you go. You get them, and you get the achievement. Other damage reduction moves can actually be used to get this as well, such as a Paladin's Bubble. They can use that to clear them out very easily, and other classes have at least some way to mitigate the damage as well. Now, after Sedana goes down, you'll get to move through the caves behind her. The Exhumer ads here will spawn more little ads, although they're really not problematic. The Enslavers are a bit more problematic as they will empower the skeletons around you and cast Rending Void Lash, a channeled high damage spell. They should be interrupted when they're casting Rending Void Lash, stunned, focused, and the tank should be rounding up pretty much everything else. There are several graves around the cave, and if you step over them, you'll spawn those little spirit ads. These aren't very strong, but can be annoying if the group spawns them, especially during the boss fight. Now, the boss Nalish, I think I'm saying that right, is the second boss and is relatively straightforward. He pretty much has 2 moves to watch out for and a third to switch phases. Void Blast is a nuke on the tank. Use cooldowns if necessary to take it like a bear. Void Vortex makes the boss rush to a random party member and start sucking everyone in. Stand outside of the bad void zones and keep moving and you'll be fine. Void Devastation will let the boss shoot random shadow bolts around the platform. Basically, just don't stand near where these are falling and you'll be just fine. The boss will also periodically cast Soul Steal, which puts the entire group in their own instance with a single ad to kill. Killing the ad and clicking on it will return the party member back to the fight and buff them up for a small amount of time. The fight then repeats as normal. On Heroic, absolutely nothing changes. The soul still can be more problematic because players might not be full health when they start, but the fight remains almost identical to the normal version. After Nalish goes down, you can move forward through the cave to the Pools of Reflection. Kind of interesting name there. There will be some more exhumers here. Just take them out. Afterwards, you'll start seeing bats and spiders. The little spiders don't do anything, but the big ones can hurt quite a bit. Their death venom should be interrupted to avoid huge tank damage, while Necrotic Burst does party-wide damage and can be interrupted as well. The bats are mostly just there to stack a disease on their tank, which does a very rough DOT at max stacks. You'll want to have cooldowns prepared for when fighting bats, both bats and spiders here, as the DOT plus the Necrotic Burst plus the Death Venom can cause a lot of problems. Now on the bridge leading out to the boss, you'll find some worms in the water. These cast Body Slam, which you'll see in the boss in just a moment. Just don't stand in it. Bone Maw is the third boss in the dungeon and has about 3 moves to deal with. Body Slam you've already seen from the trash, although Bone Maw's Body Slam is quite a bit bigger than the little worms. Step out of it to avoid damage and knockback. Necrotic Pitch will drop bad zones under players' feet. This is pretty easy to step out of, although it slows your movement speed down significantly. Normally you want to stay out of these, but for the next move you'll actually want to be in them. Inhale is Bone Maw's last move, which will suck everyone in, dealing lots of damage and basically leaving them in the water if they live. For once, my advice is to stand in the bad stuff. Standing in those necrotic pitch pools will stop you from getting sucked in. If there's none near you, you'll want to start running very early, as Bone Maw's Inhale seems to have a huge range to pull people in. Now, if you do get sucked in and live, you can swim to a whirlpool to get right back on the platform. Bone Maw will also move around after a while, going into the water and coming up at a different point. Just watch for him and continue DPS as normal after he's back. On Heroic, the basic fight stays pretty much the same with no new mechanics. However, there is one bonus. There will be 2 new worms that spawn at the back of the platform shortly after the start of the fight. These need to be focused down as they do body slams and will deal quite a bit of damage to your entire group. Otherwise, the fight is pretty much the same. Iki Ikors is an achievement tied to Bone Maw, and rather annoying if you ask me. Basically, you need to not AoE any of the little spiders in the area before Bone Maw. There are 3 groups of little spiders, and you need nearly all of them to survive all the way to the boss. This requires that your group do single target damage only to the big spiders and bats and worms all the way through the entire trash area, while the tank has to live while tanking a million little spiders. This will be quite difficult at even decent eye levels, so be prepared to wipe quite a bit. Now once you reach the boss, on the first inhale he will suck up all the little spiders and you'll get the achievement. You pretty much can't kill any of the spiders during the trash pack, so AoE is completely out. Once Bone Maw is out cold, you can move on. There are 2 more trash packs before the last boss. The first is a rough one with 2 bats and 2 spiders. Remember to interrupt Death Venom and generally just use cooldowns for the bat's disease. At the top of the stairs you'll fight more Voidwalkers. Interrupt or CC them to stop the party-wide damage from Void Blast. Finally, you'll come up to Ner'zhul himself. He'll pull you into a whole new area where you'll actually finally engage him. Ner'zhul only has 2 moves besides his basic attacks. Malevolence will do a giant cone of damage, which does significant damage and reduces damage a player's hit by 50% for a short while. Ner'zhul will continuously cast this throughout the fight, so you should face him away from the rest of the group at all times. This is quite hard though because of his second move, Omen of Death. This move will drop a radiating orb on the ground near players. The closer party members are to this orb, the more damage they'll take, so you want to be as far away as possible. This means you'll have to continuously move throughout the fight to avoid the Malevolence and Omens of Death. This, plus the way Ner'zhul moves and likes to run past you very often, makes positioning the cone very difficult. He seems to move more frequently than he should and sometimes face random directions with even the slightest movement. But wait, there's more! While this is all Ner'zhul will do, the fight isn't over with just Ner'zhul. Every so often, a wall of skeletons will appear on the side of the platform. These skeletons will slowly advance across the platform, leaving a near-fatal cloud behind them. The only way to survive is to kill one of the skeletons, which will make a gap in the smoke. As a tank, you have a problem though. Ner'zhul will keep casting Malevolence the entire time, so you need to be careful where he's facing. You have to make sure that you run through the gap in the smoke between casts of Malevolence, or he could smack your whole team in the face. Now luckily, that's all there is to this fight, and it never gets any harder. On Heroic, the fight is pretty much exactly the same, except everything does a ton more damage. Omens of Death are very important to move away from, especially on Heroic. Now the achievement Souls of the Lost is done during the Ner'zhul fight. Basically, you have to kill 2 of the skeletons during the Ritual of Bones instead of 1. This requires some good DPS and some good focus. You'll want to mark the ones to kill quickly, or communicate beforehand, like killing the leftmost 2. There is a catch/bug here that you'll want to watch out for. Currently, you'll have to kill the 2 skeletons in the last Ritual of Bones to get this to count. Meaning, if you kill 2 skeletons the first time the ritual is cast, then only kill 1 the second time, then kill the boss, you won't get any credit. You have to kill both the skeletons in whatever the final cast of Ritual of Bones was. Normally, this will be the second or third cast depending on how good your DPS is. I hope you've enjoyed this guide for Dummies. Click the annotation in the top left to see more dungeon or raid guides. Please like, favorite, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and, as always, you keep it salty, Internet.